Hello there, Macarb here as usual. First off, I want to thank all of you for the amazing reception of my rant on the origins of the term blessed bee. It means a lot. At the time of this writing, the video has nearly 200 views, which is the most my channel has ever had. This isn't a lot compared to other channels out there, but it still means a lot, and I'm glad I've grown this much in the past few weeks. When it comes to the occult, one of my favorite things is to look into its history. It's surprisingly interesting. Despite being a small part of history, I feel that it's important to look into for practitioners and non-practitioners alike. It not only offers a great view of popular religions and spiritual beliefs hundreds and even thousands of years ago, but it offers unique looks on not just religious intolerance, but sexism, both of which are problems we face in the modern world. Right now, I want to focus on the Witchcraft Acts of 1542 and 1563, which I mentioned in my last video. These were the first laws that were established in Britain against the practice of witchcraft and impacted many future revisions of witchcraft laws until they were repealed in 1951. First established by King Henry VIII in 1542, the Witchcraft Acts prohibited the practice of witchcraft in Britain. This was oftentimes punishable by death. As the actual act stated, you would not be allowed to do the following: use, devise, practice, or exercise, or cause to be devised, practiced, or exercised, any invocations or conjurations of sprites, witchcrafts, enchantments, or sorceries, to the intent to find money or treasure, or to waste, consume, or destroy any person in his body members, or to provoke any person to unlawful love, or for any other unlawful intent or purpose, or for despite of Christ, or for lucre of money, dig up or pull down any cross or crosses, or by such invocations or conjurations of sprites, witchcrafts, enchantments, or sorceries, or any of them, take upon them to tell or declare where goods stolen or lost shall become. Keep in mind, on paper that doesn't look like English, and that took me about 20 minutes to record that properly, but hey, that was what they spoke like back then, I guess. Keep in mind, in the 16th century, the threat of witchcraft was perceived to be a real thing. Christian sects in Europe feared a great number of supernatural things, however witches were probably the most close to home, so to speak, in Britain. It is important to know that the accusation of witchcraft was punishable by death before this, however it wasn't exactly a formal law. It wasn't a common thing because hysteria about it wasn't around. Most people probably hadn't even heard much of it, considering the majority of the population was focused on agriculture and lived outside of the cities, so they were pretty out of the loop with news. Partially due to this, a clause typically called the benefit of clergy existed. If someone accused of witchcraft was able to read a passage from the Bible, they wouldn't be lynched. Simple as that. However, when the Witchcraft Acts of 1542 were passed, it removed the benefit of clergy. Even if you could read, which was pretty much no one back then, and you were accused of witchcraft, you wouldn't be able to quickly save yourself by claiming benefit of clergy. Now, it is important to note that most people accused of witchcraft probably weren't actual witches. If you've never heard of Salem and some other famous witch hunts, the accused are usually just normal people that someone had a grudge against from where things started to spiral out of control. Commonly, people who were accused were women who didn't fit the social norm at the time. They might have been old, or have been unwed too long, or even have been widows. If you were too good at gardening, you also might have been a witch. Not pretty? Witch. Socially awkward? Definitely a witch. You get the idea. It wasn't just women who were accused of witchcraft, but they were the overwhelming many. Some males were accused as well. Most people who were accused and executed weren't actual witches, though there were probably a few that were. When it comes down to it, the laws weren't used as a way to root out witchcraft or anything. They were a way to execute people that the majority of the town or settlement just didn't like. If the people claimed someone was a witch, the accused would just be thrown in prison and await their trial. Which was usually a catch-22 situation. I'll go into these things further in another video because I feel like these witch tests deserve one of their own, but in general it was sort of a situation that led to death either way. One of the most common of these was binding the arms and legs of a person and throwing them into deep water. If they rose to the surface, they were a witch and they'd be lynched. If they drowned, well, they weren't, but you're rid of them anyway because they're kind of dead. Oops. In 1562, Queen Elizabeth I passed a new Witchcraft Act that repealed the one of Henry VIII. This act was a much more lenient form of the law, only punishing conjurations, enchantments, and witchcraft with death should it harm another person. If proved of practicing witchcraft that did not harm a person, one could be sentenced to a period in prison instead. Strangely enough, this was the beginning of a period of even more accusations of witchcraft, the opposite of what one might expect due to the leniency. After the Witchcraft Act of 1562 was passed, about 20% of homicide victims were claimed to be connected to witchcraft, translating to around 160 people who were accused. About half the accused were acquitted, and only 9 of the accused were actually men. There were further laws that were instilled regarding witchcraft, but these are the only 2 we want to focus on for right now. The aftermath of the Witchcraft Acts of 1542 and 1562 were enormous, despite being the first 2 laws against the practice and only impacting Great Britain. Though witch trials happening across the rest of Europe were far more brutal than the ones in Great Britain, the laws passed by Henry and Elizabeth were the spark that lit the fire of witchcraft hysteria between the 16th and 18th centuries in Britain and her colonies. It wouldn't help that in 1604, King James would ascend to the throne and, being quite anti-occult, expanded the Act of 1562 and only fanned the flames. This widespread paranoia led to many witch hunts across Europe and the Americas, culminating in 1692, over a century since the first law was passed, in the town of Salem, Massachusetts. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something from this video. Wishing you a beautiful morning, evening, and night wherever you are. This has been Macabre. Till next time! Hey, thanks for watching until the end. Before I go, I want to give some credit where it's due. This video and my entire channel would not have been possible without my amazing artist and even greater friend, Oraa. Check out her Twitch below. If you like my content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks for watching!